breakfast, Oot N Aboot, at the West End Cultural Center. They call me Broose, Amanda's on the camera, and we've got Jorge Requena from the Mariachi Ghost downstairs, the West End Cultural Center tonight. A tribute to Chile's 9/11. In 1973, Pinochet, the leader of the military, backed by Nixon, overthrew the democratically elected president, and years of darkness ensued. And Mariachi Ghost is opening up for Andino sons, who are the sons of Chilean exiles. Here we go with the cliche. Why is this important? How is this important to you? Because I mean, this is big.
I feel it's important because it's has gone in history as an unremembered fact that the American Air Force and the American Army entered Chile, entered Santiago with the Casa planes, bombarded the city, and put in their own president. And I mean, that happened all over Latin America, not just in Chile, but Chile is probably the most notorious example because Allende, the president that actually won the election, was a socialist president that was democratically elected basically by the youth of the country, who were the majority. And the conservative right was afraid of what could happen. The conservative business owners and the church, they all talked to the Americans, and the Americans came and used their CIA, NSA sort of backed power to put their own president in Chile, who killed 30,000 people after that date, and died without ever being sort of really punished for it. That's kind of the saddest part, is that he never actually paid for his sins, and he should have. And so there's a thing called the School of the Americas in Latin America, which was a school run by American and European, in a way, sort of right-wing white supremacists that worked for companies and corporations and governments that believed in capitalism as the ultimate solution for everything, to a religious point. And so they formed all of the generals, all of the right-wing generals, and all the CIA agents and all the NSA agents and all the economic hitmen that destroyed Latin America in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, from the Cuban Revolution to the Chilean Revolution,
Honduras,
Nicaragua, Costa Rica, like Venezuela. All of these revolutions were the resistance against this movement, the School of the Americas, which has also now kind of been forgotten. You don't hear about Pinochet anymore. You don't hear about Friedman and horrible things he taught these people, right? He was an economist that was seemingly innocent from Chicago, but he, by his own hand, catapulted the cocaine empires of Latin America, the scandals with Nicaragua and Iran, the Mexican dictatorship that we're living under right now. All of this is a consequence of Friedman economics and neoliberalism in Latin America. So this event is something that we want to remind the population of Winnipeg, and we want to force the spotlight that as musicians we have an opportunity to get sometimes, to remember this and never forget, because the second you forget, it will happen again.
As we're looking down south at their election, we're just shaking our heads. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And one of the things, the criticisms that veterans have and members of the armed forces, I don't say criticism, but concerns, is that the youth here in Canada have forgotten. We're now 2-3 generations away from any real war, as opposed to a police action. Subtle difference, but the big war, there isn't that connection. How does that remind us? How does that affect somebody who is, whether they are one of the exiles or a son of an exile like Andino sons, or because you're still very politically active, not only back home but here. Tell us about how that brings into your personal, your person, what.
I mean, the Mariachi Ghost has always been, the character of the Mariachi Ghost is a justice fighter. It's always been, for Latin Americans, the heroes of your childhood are the heroes of your nation that brought freedom to your nation, that decolonialized Bolivar, Hidalgo, the leaders of that made Latin America free. Then there was a second wave of oppression that happened in the middle of our century, of the last century, that we were alive already for, right? And I grew up going to a socialist school in Mexico where I had Chilean teachers that were exiles, and I had Spanish teachers that were exiles from Franco, and I had Uruguayan teachers that were exiles from Uruguay, and Argentina teachers that were exiled from Argentina. Latin America suffered a lot because of these ideologies, and we can't let it go into history without remembering. And you have to remember that art, one of the main points of art is to force a spotlight on things that are not okay. Art is art resistance, and for the most important thing for me about for Chilean people that live here, that survived Pinochet and survive the coup, is that their existence is resistance. The fact that they survived, the fact that they are here and they still have their ideals and they believe in the beauty of freedom and revolution, even though they suffer through the horrors of war, is an act of resistance in itself, and we want to honor that, which is why we'll learn some Victor Jara songs. Andino songs are totally familiar with that material. They're going to play some themselves, because we wanted to honor that, the aesthetics of the revolution, the beauty of the epic thoughts of these revolutionary young people who went up and took to the mountain and armed themselves and fought an army back to the Americans in all these different countries. Just young people grew beards and went to the mountain and decided that they were going to be the last standing line of freedom, and they were. And Victor Jara reflected on that really strongly in all of his music, right? And so we want to honor the memory of those people by remembering what's happening. It happened in September 11, 1973. That's a really important date, because when you talk about September 11, it's 9/11, and it's the American 9/11, and everybody remembers the horrible thing that happened at the towers, and that we should remember for sure. But we should also not forget the tens of thousands of people who lived and died in Latin America because of American occupation, because of the second colonial attempt, and because of the School of the Americas. And I feel that 9/11 should also be about remembering those things. I think for Chileans it's specifically the coup, but for the rest of Latin Americans is the horrors of the School of the Americas.
It can happen anywhere. Over 200,000 Chileans fled, and if there's a silver lining, it's that we got them.
Yeah, that's it. And
it fits into the cultural mosaic.
It's crazy. Like, we got geniuses like Alejandro Jodorowsky, who is the best filmmaker in history for many people. He came out of that. He moved to Mexico because of that, right? Like, his parents felt the political unrest and moved to Mexico because they didn't want to be a part of it, right? And he was successful in Mexico as a Chilean artist, and then he was successful worldwide, right? And so those things, we took them, like, as a society, were stolen away from Chile. Those geniuses were stolen away from Chile, and we got them. So we're the lucky people to have them, but it's gonna kind of change history completely, right?
We get the dates, the names, the facts, the figures, yada, yada, yada. There's the passion. There's the humanity in all of it. Thanks, Jorge.
Thank you.
Beer for breakfast. Oot N Aboot. Until we meet again, be good, have fun.